Hi everyone, today we're talking about probation periods, one of my least favorite terms in the world of HR, albeit an absolutely necessary one. So today we'll be covering some of the basics of probation periods, as well as some best practices, as well as some of the responsibilities employers have towards employees during probation periods. So let's get right to it. So let's start talking fundamentals. What exactly are probation periods? Well, there's a specific time in the beginning of employment where an employee's suitability for the job and performance are evaluated. They're like a trial period for both the employee and the employer. And this is where my pet peeve with probation periods begin. Because why exactly are we calling them probation periods? Why is your workplace borrowing language from the criminal justice system? Who's on probation here? Because if you think about it, the implications are nudge, nudge, you're on thin ice. In fact, the chief people officer that I interviewed for our podcast, Amy Brand, once told me that they entirely changed the name probation periods and called it a settling in period, which is nicer by a long shot. In fact, you can listen to that entire episode of the podcast by clicking the link in the description. Let's move on. The average duration for probation periods are usually between 3 to 6 months, but that can be longer or shorter. There are multiple different factors affecting the length of a probation period, such as the complexity of a role, the level of seniority, or the amount of specific skills required for the job. Now, without diving too far into the legal side, because I'm not a lawyer, and even if I was, I wouldn't be able to give you legal advice, it is easier for employers to dismiss employees during a probationary period. And the same goes both ways. It is easier for employees to leave companies during their probationary period. But probation period is not a free pass to fire employees at will. In fact, there was a 2023 case in Canada where the dismissal of a federal public sector employee during a probationary period was actually discussed. Now, the Canadian Public Service Labor Relations Board decided to uphold the dismissal, but they investigated and made sure that adequate time for a legitimate assessment had passed and the employee had received enough feedback to uphold the dismissal. Now, why have probationary periods in the first place? Because they help with performance and skill assessment. It helps employers understand whether or not the employee actually has the skills to perform in that specific role. It also helps you evaluate whether or not this match is a cultural fit, because an employee might have all the skills to perform in that job. But if the cultural fit isn't right for the organization, then it's not going to be a good time for anyone. And remember, it is a two-way evaluation. As the employer is evaluating whether or not the employee is right for the organization, the employee is also deciding whether or not they want to be a part of this place. Okay, now that we've covered the basics and my dog decided to grace us with his presence, let's start talking best practices for probationary periods. Now, probation period best practices for employees is rather simple. It's common sense. It's all about putting your best foot forward and trying to learn as much about this place as possible. And of course, it's about being your authentic, beautiful self, because that is the self that's going to be working there after the probation period. So you want to make sure that it is a right fit. For the employers, however, it is a little more complicated than that. They have a lot of responsibilities. They have a responsibility towards their new hires and existing employees that the process goes as smooth and as fair as possible. They also have a responsibility to themselves that the assessment is as accurate as possible, because recruitment is expensive and they need to make sure their recruitment efforts don't go to waste. Let's start things off with something simple: setting clear goals for your new hires that also align with your company's goals, as well as assigning them some onboarding tasks. Onboarding tasks both get the ball rolling for them, as well as familiarize them with the way of things in your company. Step number two would be to create a mentorship slash onboarding buddy system with your new hires and your veteran employees. This is both a great way to help your new hires acclimate to the company, as well as show your veterans you value their input, their insight, and their experience. And the employer should also be seeking regular feedback as well through regular onboarding surveys conducted with their new hires. These regular surveys help you understand just how welcoming your organization actually is, as well as how effective your onboarding program is. What comes next? Well, your new hires should be in for regular weekly check ins with their mentors as well as other higher ups in the organization. And those meetings should have lots of continuous feedback to those employees about their performance. And the employer should also be seeking regular feedback as well through regular onboarding surveys conducted with their new hires. These regular surveys help you understand just how welcoming your organization actually is, as well as how effective your onboarding program is. And all of this should be followed up with 30, 60, and 90-day probation reviews that will eventually help you decide whether or not the employee will be a part of the organization. Now, if you've heard all of that and thought, okay, that is too much, well, yeah, it is. But boy, do I have the solution for you. And that solution comes in the form of the best performance management slash onboarding software for Microsoft Teams, Teamflect. Teamflect will help you implement the onboarding system of your dreams inside Microsoft Teams. Teamflect will help you establish and automate every single phase of your onboarding slash probation period. For example, you can create automated onboarding tasks for each department. So once an employee gets recruited into those departments, they will receive those tasks automatically. The same customization and automation principles can be applied to onboarding surveys as well as probation reviews conducted with Teamflect as well. You can either create your own survey or review template, or pick an existing template and send them out to your employees at your desired frequencies with custom automation scenarios. So, if you want to try Teamflect for free or schedule a free demo with them, you can always click the link in the description. But that brings us to the end of this video. What did you think? What did I miss? Just let me know in the comments. Guys, we release helpful content like this one every single week. Subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Bye bye.
Teamflect. Build teams that deliver.